All right. Hey, Omar, how are you? We're live.
Hey Hassan, how are
Hey,
you?
good, 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 good. All right, my friend, let's get started. Let's see where we are. I think for the entity intelligence, we did talk a little bit about last time we talked about the shuffling, and that's a wild, nice feature that we can use. Um, Let me kind of increase the resolution here, and let's just get cooking with this one. So here is display settings. 150, going back here. All right, let's do this. So here we go. Okay, so on this realm though, we did have a validation piece and now we're shuffling. So let's just go through this. You basically are getting some natural query that we don't care about and then random table information. So that's a list. Let's make sure there's some indication that it's a list. And then invalid table informations. And we decided that they are this way because we said everywhere where that index exists, where it contains that index, we expect that error to come out this way. Okay. And then,
I think there is we can change the name of line 119
uh-huh,
to say list in it, table information list.
119.
Yeah, this one like it should be invalid table information list AI processing exception because we will need the other one, this
That's
name
right.
for later. Yeah.
That's right. So valid table information list.
Oh,
Okay.
actually, I meant the variable name, not the message also, but that's good. Yeah.
Sounds good. Right, but the message here is also not right. Oh, no, it is because you're saying null or empty. That's right. Okay, so we have that, and we're basically not supposed to call our dependency at all when that happens. So there is that. And let's see here. So you're basically saying for every one of these index, if that index falls into these unique numbers. So you're taking a random invalid item count, and that's why you're shuffling, right? Because you shuffled the list and you just took a random count of it. Now, my question for you here is, are you testing for the extremes? Like you're basically going and saying it could be all or none. And based on that, it needs to have at least one. And I guess it needs to have, that's why you did minimum one, right? So that's
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
because it needs to have at least one invalid item. Otherwise, what's the point of the test at all,
Correct. Yeah.
right? Okay, cool. So I think this test is ready, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here.
Yes, it's working, I think.
Let's do it.
Actually, we didn't need to change anything in the business logic. It was already covering the use case,
This
right?
case? Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah,
Okay, I like that a lot.
yeah.
So the business case is already covering that. How? Did we have a
Because
circuit
we
breaker?
no, not a circuit breaker. Because we you remember we go through each one of them and return a rule or like a rule and a parameter,
Yeah,
and the list if there is more than one null, it will be covered.
yeah, we basically said, oh yeah, we did talk about that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Interesting. But where is the part? Oh, we did say element at. That's right. And we said it's invalid, and is invalid here is null. So we said object is required. Okay, cool. So now my question for you is, what is the next validation rule that we need to cover for this? We need,
So
uh
I was doing actually just half an hour ago some experiment with the next one.
yeah,
If you want, I can share and we can discuss. It's actually, it gets a little bit. There is some uh, um, judgment that we need to make
yeah,
of how granular we go. But let's see.
yeah,
I
go
can
for it.
show you here.
Love to see it. Let's go.
So the one we did is just checking if the item is null, right?
Mm.
So what the next one is, so just, can you see my screen? Oh, sorry, I'm
It's
sharing.
coming. Yeah, there it is.
No, I
Oh,
was sharing the same screen. Okay, sorry.
uh-huh.
I'll need to share Visual Studio. Okay.
There we go. All right, go for it. It's loading.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Hmm.
So the previous one we did, we said if table informations has invalid items, right?
That's right.
But this one, we should throw validation exception or retrieve if table information has invalid table names or columns, right?
Yep. Yep.
So the way like it's very similar to previous test. So we
It should
have,
just be one test where you're basically saying, go inside table information real quick. Sorry, Omar. Just go
yeah.
inside table information. So you have name, schema, and columns, right?
Oh, there is schema as well. Okay.
Yeah. So and I don't know. Greg suggested the schema part. Um, I don't know. I think what he meant by it is like when you go and say DBO or something like that, right? It's a more complex scenario because he's been doing this also for a long time. But uh, I could stop at basically saying if the columns are null
Mm-hmm.
or the name is null, empty, or white space, and that would be just one test.
That's what I'm thinking also.
Let's do it. I'm all
Yeah.
game for it.
But like the way I did it is, okay, I'm passing these different values for the
Hmm.
table name and the column,
Hmm.
the column list. And I'm doing the same thing with shoveling, picking random number of indices that will be bad, right? With table information is invalid. Now
Hmm.
here, instead of setting the whole thing to null, I can just set the name and columns. Now here my question is, should we have a test only for name and another test for columns?
No, no.
Just this is enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the follow-up question.
Hmm.
Now, with the like the exceptions, because in this case we will add two exceptions,
Yep.
right? So and we need to have different key for them. Should we say name at index and columns at index here?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's not the element, it's the value inside the element.
Yes. Columns are required, name is required.
Yep.
So, but for this, I had to actually create another exception.
Yeah, that's okay. It's localized exceptions. It has to
Yeah,
address a particular issue.
exactly. So this is the invalid table information API processing exception. Um, yeah, and the rest is the same as before,
Hmm.
like wrapped with this the validation exception. Nothing changed.
Yeah, that's
Um,
perfect.
yeah, I can like. Is there any like
The one thing,
empty?
the one thing I
What?
have against this me,
Hmm,
it doesn't tell me what null is, but then someone might argue where we use the same logic when we are, um, like for instance, if you scroll up a little bit,
yeah.
why do you have to define null 3 times? Then just set it always to null.
Oh, you mean? Oh, yeah. Actually, you're correct. I was thinking like, is empty one of the cases?
I know what you're trying to do. I think you just went into the direction of there are other forms of invalid columns before you settled on validating it for being null.
Maybe
And that's
empty
how
is
and
one of
that's how
them.
you determined, right? So
I was thinking like we can add an empty columns here.
in that case, you're gonna need to have, and I think this is valid, I agree with you. I think that we probably need a you need a method to
Oh,
calculate,
okay. Yeah.
just like we
Okay.
do with the exceptions. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like theory data, right?
Hmm.
So invalid table information. Is it for both of them or just for the columns we
For
should do?
both of them.
Okay. So basically,
because you're basically saying here's a table column. Sorry, here's table information. Here's a bunch of invalid table informations.
mhm.
A bunch of cases where that would be the situation.
Yeah. So I think I will rename the old one to invalid table information list or
Hmm.
lists
Hmm.
here. Um, and this one just keep it invalid table information. And I need to return a tuple, I think.
Nope, you just need to return table information. You
But
need
what
to
about?
do, you
Uh,
need
oh yeah. So the table information, first one being uh, empty name. Do we have a constructor here? I don't think so.
no, you're just gonna create two squigglies.
Yeah. So the
Yep,
first one is
and then
new
define the properties. You have to
table
define the
information.
properties. It's an object, right? Just like any
Yeah,
other
yeah,
object.
yeah, yeah.
You also don't need the list. Why are you returning a list? It's just you're returning just table information,
But
like a theory data of table informations, right?
but like we need multiple cases, right?
Right. So you're gonna have many inside the theory data, right?
Okay, so instead of a list, we just explicitly. Uh,
Yep.
okay.
So if you do that, take a new line. Yeah, you can always do a comma and create as many cases as you want for invalid table informations, right?
Yeah. Okay. So should we do we
I
care
think
about
it's
schema now?
I think it's equal. No, don't worry about schema now.
Oh, I was doing some TypeScript
You're
today.
you're 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 doing TypeScript.
Yeah.
You've been invaded by JavaScript.
So it's whatever the job needs,
So
I
so
think.
so why it's mad at you? Because you're still saying theory data is returning a list. Take that
Oh yeah.
list out. Yeah.
And we'll have a new table of information
Hmm.
of empty. Okay, good.
Nice. Make the S uppercase, please. And to do a space between multi-liners. So put a space after the comma, and then
Mhm.
for empty, put S uppercase, because primitive types don't really have anything in them other than
Yeah.
containerizing. That's just
Oops.
a mistake that, the designers have made.
Yeah.
Visual Studio will even tell you, oh, you don't need to do this. This is just an alias. Oh, shut the front door. So okay. So null, empty, or white space, right?
So white space
Mhm.
and okay, we can actually go do many more because
Yeah,
we
do
can
as many
like
as you want.
new column. Oh, sorry, new list of columns, I guess. Table columns.
Mm,
Okay, so null, null, empty, null, white space, null.
right.
I think that covers it. Or I can actually do the same things with an empty list as well.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there is a way that we can do these permutations, but I think this is okay with me. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Go for it. It doesn't scale if you have like 20 properties and you need to
Yeah.
validate, but I think this is all right. This is totally fine.
Yeah. Okay. So there is null
Mm,
name and another one for white space
white
with
space.
this empty. Yeah.
Yep. Are they in the exact order? Like null.
Okay. So null. Oh, null, empty, white space. I should
Right. So
have.
null, empty. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is null. I know the shortcut to use. I forgot to move
If
two
you do
lines.
alt and move up and down. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So null, empty,
So string dot empty and then white space.
empty, and white space. Okay. I think we're
Yes,
good
sir.
here.
Yep, that's it. And then just take that method and use it.
And theory, I think
I
member
think it's
data
member data. Yeah, that's right.
of type name of and what do we call it?
Are you a
Invalid.
Vim user? Are you on Vim?
No, but this is the insert button.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
This happens to me all the time. I don't like it. Yeah, there you go. Invalid table information.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
let's run and see. Should be 6 failures.
Yeah. Kailu, do you have your VS up and running? Because you're gonna make that test pass.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 6 failures, and the message is invalid operation exception. The test method expected 2 parameters values, but 1 parameter.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
think we don't
You
need
just
this.
need to pass in one
Yeah,
table information in there.
yeah. And so just one table information.
That's right.
Table information
Invalid
invalid.
table. Yeah. So now I'm assuming you're gonna randomize the existence of these invalid ones across the board. Is that right?
I'm sorry.
I think that's what you're doing. You're randomizing different places where table information is invalid, right?
Yeah, but there is a missing case here.
Although honestly, I don't care because we already validated that it iterates. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I think there is a missing case. Like here, I don't know if it's actually important or not, but what about name with valid columns and uh, valid names with invalid columns? So here we are assuming they're like the bad things come together, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the
Mm-hmm.
same table information, but we may have only one of them in a bad state.
That's a very, very good question. I just need to think about it. We just need to create two more cases
That's
or actually it could be like six more cases or something like that. Let me think about it. I
yeah,
think that's a great observation.
yeah.
100%.
Maybe we can actually simplify it if we separate into 2 test cases, one with invalid name and valid columns, and the other one.
Because no, because they're not circuit breakers. Like one of
Yeah.
them is not going to break the other. But let me think about it.
Okay.
We can also generate the data.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah. We
option.
can.
So
Yeah.
3 by 3, right? So 3 cases by 3 cases, something like that. So what is this? Expected inner exception to be
To be
processing invalid table information AI, but found exception of type to be uh invalid table information list. So
list.
it dictated that the list is bad. Why is that? That's very interesting. Let Kylo deal with it. That's his problem.
Okay. Sorry, Caleb. Here's it.
Kylo, deal with it. All right.
I just want to see why do I have 3 files. Oh yeah, I
Maybe
changed
you
that.
ran a cleanup or something.
No,
Yeah.
no, because we added that function to
You might
calculate.
need to sync up because I made a push just for code cleanup and stuff. So just make sure. I don't think we're gonna conflict. Oh, we did, didn't we? Cannot pull because there are uncommitted changes. Oh, so you have to commit your changes first and then pull.
Yeah.
Just click commit all and then pull again.
Mm.
Yeah, that should do. Did it actually commit the changes?
No, actually, it didn't even.
Why?
Uh, just a second.
What
Hmm?
is that? GPGAXE is not supported, likely because the first not line is not. Oh boy, do you have to?
Braun.
No, not prune. This is your signage, right? That's you signing.
I
What happened? Did your configuration change or something?
I like
Maybe you
I
need to switch
installed the new.
accounts.
Just a second. Sorry for that.
No worries. I'm switching batteries over here, so if you don't hear me for a second, be be with me.
Okay. is going on here?
But now, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I installed the battery in my head. So I'm ready to go for another 18 hours. Let's go. So why don't you try with the not preview Visual Studio?
Actually, yesterday I reset my
Oh, you
laptop.
reset the whole
I was
machine?
doing some
Okay.
performance. Yeah, yeah.
So I wonder if that's
Yes,
why, because it's
just
not letting you.
get after that. But I just signed in again in GitHub.
Yeah.
So I'm signed in. Uh,
What happens if you do it from the command line?
Yeah, I wonder if you just
let's see.
go old school and just push it from the command line, what happens? It's a good point, Kay. Yeah, go old school, get commit -m. Yep, put that test name here, and they made it colorful now. So look at that. It's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the commit.
No.
Yeah, the term get is not recognized. Ha,
Oh, that's because
what?
of me.
You
Because
don't
I
have
didn't
get installed.
I forgot many things. It seems like when yeah, I'm just installing it right now. Hopefully, just a couple of minutes, 1 minute.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Maybe you can talk. You can talk through the improving the test case. Well,
Yeah, I mean, Kailu, did you hear what he said? He was basically saying, what about the other cases where, like, normally when we're running for validation, we make the assumption, it's a false assumption, that all of these properties will be invalid at once. You see what he's saying? So you can actually circumvent that if you write something in the test that says only create that exception when all these properties are invalid. Do you get what he's saying? So assume, for instance, that you have a student. This could be a standard upgrade, actually, because this is a very, very valid point. I just don't know. And I think we did talk about it at some point in time. So Kailu, what he's basically saying, like, assume you have student equal new student, right, with an ID, invalid ID, and a name, invalid name, like this, right? That's our test cases for validations, right? But we never test for student, new student, like this, where ID is valid ID, but name is invalid name, which kind of creates a vulnerability in our unit test, because what that basically means is that someone can easily go and say, don't throw that exception unless all of them are invalid. And you can circumvent the test, and all your tests are still going to pass. Theoretically, they will all pass, and you won't be able to do anything about it. How do we fix that problem?
I thought we are in our current validation, like we pick the properties that we want to be validated, and then take that, and then we throw those into the exception, right?
No, no,
Don't we?
no. Let me show you. So look at this. This, when we're talking about building a problem detail, let's go to one of our foundation services, right? Like if you go into AI service, you're basically, oh well, that's a bad example, because you're basically, let's try maybe the data service. Does the data service takes in a model? It takes in an enumeration of models, right?
Well, it's a
Uh,
retrieve, so you don't really
yeah, you're not gonna be able, yeah. So
validate.
let me open OpenAI and show you, like, it's actually a very good point. I know that I know that we at some point in time talked about this, but we never really. I need to talk to Chris too about, our outstanding issues. Someone must have logged this at some point in time. Someone talked to me about it, but the fact that Omar is bringing it again, that means it's becoming more and more obvious, right? So, okay. And I'm trying to sneeze and it's not coming, so sorry about that. Just gonna take in weird pauses. But let's just try with the OpenAI project in here. If you look at something like fine tunes, for instance, right? What are we passing? We're passing a fine tune model in here, right? And this fine tune model has all of these, right? And inside the fine tune model, we have all our validations and all that kind of stuff, right? If you look at our tests, my friend, you will notice that in the fine tune area in here, we're basically going and saying, assume, oh, are we actually just doing basic validation on the request and the response? Well, that doesn't give
Not
me
the
fun.
response, that's the
Just the
idea. So,
request. Yeah.
I mean, there
What?
should be other examples that you look for.
Yeah. What was the
Say
first one
the
that we started with?
the
The completion.
complete chat completion or either completion.
Yeah, this one here. Do you see how we're saying model and prompts, and we said these two are required? So we only throw this invalid exception if valid. I can literally circumvent this today and go and say, check this out. I can go up in here and say, only throw that exception if all of them are invalid, and our test will still pass. I can guarantee you that. So I'll show you. So you're basically saying the request model, and the prompts, right? Okay. And you're only throwing the exception if and only if both of these are invalid, right? Which means, excuse me, let me break my own theory here and embarrass myself in public. Um, I can basically go here and say if, right, invalid completion exception dot data dot count. Watch this. It's more than one, then throw this. Otherwise, don't. Look at this. And I bet you all our tests will pass. Let's find out. This is where, this is on the completion service, right? I'll just run everything.
While it's running, do we have a kind of a commit message for the merge, a
Yeah, you
standard?
just all uppercase merge.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and Gregory said get latest because he updated OpenAI to latest standard. That's right. Thank you, Greg. I'll do that now. I'm just trying to prove the theory for this, but yes. Come on. Here we go. Ooh, something failed. Let's see what happened. So this says should throw validation exception. It says actual I expected completion error completion validation. He said I got a service exception. We got a service exception. Why? Because the I think trying to access this caused, oh, object reference is not set to an instance of an object, which is what? Which is the, what about this one? Is it the same thing? Null reference exception. So where is that exactly? That's at, man, every day we're learning something new. This is amazing. So this is on the request, right? So let me go back here. Let me just comment this. I don't know if this should work. Everything here should work by default, but let me just double check here first. Oh, the data is null. Okay, that makes sense. I know what I did wrong there. Hold on. I'll show you how I'm gonna circumvent my own tests and show a vulnerability in it. So okay, so if I go like this and do this, watch that. if invalid completion exception dot data is not null and is more than one, like that, right? So now let me kill that. Oh man, this is wild. If this is true, then we have a whole lot of think. I guess we're gonna have to release the standard 2.10.1 or something like that, or 2.11 or something like that, because this is definitely a vulnerability. Like there's nothing to prove whatsoever that we are not waiting for everything to fail until something specifically happens this way. So this is basically saying object reference again. Did it actually build this? Hold on. I don't like this ongoing running thing in here in the background. So um, let me debug these tests and see what happens here specifically. Oh, and I'm also on release mode. Why am I on release mode? Hang tight. Because I was releasing something from this library. By the way, just a notice for you. You know, we're starting to kind of change how we do open source. The standard community, we're putting a promise out there. You know, here's what we promise you. Here's the things that you can rest assured will never change as principles and rules for any open source library that's standard compliant. But more importantly, we have to have the build that produces the hash that is deployed to NuGet match the public build. We must have that. If we don't do that, then there is no guarantee whatsoever a rogue deployment happened in there. We need to stop that whole deployment from our local machines, even if it's up to date with the open source repository. So we'll grow hopefully into that dimension at some point in time. So okay, so this guy here is not null. Then where's this null exception coming from? Let's see here. Okay, so this guy in here has data in it. It has no data in it at all. Okay, good. So if I keep going, right, the request here has value. All of this is good. Okay, and then doing this validation stuff. Okay, is the data here null? It's not. Is the data here, does the data here has any other values? No, it does not. Okay. Then I don't know where that exception is coming from. Oh, you know where it's coming from? It's coming from the fact that we're trying to access some of these properties or parameters later on, and it's throwing that null reference exception. That's why, right? Exception found, notice found, not found, exception. Okay, and then what do we do here again? We go back here. Here, object reference is not set to an instance of an object. So which one is it? The request itself. This is actually a problem in our validation because we should circuit break here, okay, Lou, before we start accessing that, right? But I thought we're doing that in here. Like an exception here should have been thrown earlier, right? If this guy is null. So how come that didn't happen? That's weird. You know, anyway, I could take some time and try to test the theory. We have about 15 minutes to get through it. So Omar, sorry, Omar, yeah, go. Do you want to share your screen and show
I
us?
I already checked it in, so you
Oh,
can keep.
you were able to push it in? Okay, Kailu, it's your turn then.
Give me some second. I can't do it right now.
Okay, cool. I'll just go back to that part. So it's very strange because this guy should have thrown an exception on not null, and yet it just proceeded for some reason. What was my condition here? If it's more than one, Aha. So it didn't throw the exception because when we validate it for null, aha. I think I know why. We should have like, we should have had something like null completion request exception, but because it's a property on that model, we choose to represent it this way. Right, right. So what if I say more than two then? Like that happens. Let me run this again. If this passes, that would be weird. Yeah, it still wants that one error to happen first. And it's trying to access things, and these things are throwing null reference exception. If we're passing, let's see, if we're passing this model directly to a database or something like that, I bet you it will pass. Let me find intern track, which is basically a project that a group of interns are trying to build. Let's go here. Find this. Remind me later here. So I'll just type in intern track. A much simpler solution, but can show that vulnerability very, very much so. So that. Okay. Okay, I already have intern track. Perfect. Okay. Let me open up that project real quick. Intern track core. There it is. So let me go into this here. And then I'm going to pull latest from main and just see here. Here you go. So here's an example. This is services, foundations, interns, and we have all of these rules in here. And then I can so easily go into the validation piece of this. Let's see here. I think Cake already updated most of them, but on the ad maybe in here. Yeah, this guy right here. There. So I can go and say if it's more than one in here, and this test will still pass. Let me just run them all first, just to make sure. Come on, come on. I don't know why. This is supposed to be the 64-bit version of Visual Studio. Shouldn't be that slow. I don't know what's taking it so long. They don't have anything running. Come on. Maybe because I'm enabling the preview features, so that's now it's tripping a little bit. Let's see here. Build. Let me cancel that. Let me try to do a build from this side. Yeah, that's much better. That just at least gives me, yeah, there you go. Things are failing. Project assets, infrastructure, not found. Wow, what is happening here? So let me, can't even build that project either. There's something missing here in the analyzers, SDKs, exceptions, all of these libraries. Greg, do you know, is this project is building on your side properly, right? I'm assuming. I hope it is. What if I just unload and reload the project? Okay, let me do that. Close solution. Yeah, it's basically saying I'm building something. Cancel that. Reload this project and then clean solution. Clean started. Yeah, and now see it's pointing to version 8, preview 7, so it could be doing some stuff there. So can I start a build or anything? Man, this whole thing is just, come on. Anyway, while it's doing that, what I'm really trying to prove here basically is that if I go into this intern service and go to the validation section of it and basically mandate a certain number of invalid items, I can get away with that. And these tests, this is just at least the theory. And if that theory is true, then we need to kind of upgrade our standard to cover up this piece as well. There's like infinite number of things that could happen that could go wrong. And that's the whole point of doing these sessions, is to basically be able to go and say, well, um, we didn't see this vulnerability before. Now we need to cover that vulnerability and see what we can do with it next and all that. So, and for using preview, so I guess that's what would happen. Since I have the preview version, I should maybe just disable that and then just restart my solution and see. Let me just give it one last shot because I really want to prove this. This could be this is what I live for, really, just to find vulnerabilities in our standard. Yeah, there you go. That's much better. Yikes. So let me run all of this first just to make sure things are actually building. Here we go. Okay, so all of this is building great. And now I'm just going to go here and say, take this and say invalid intern exceptions dot data count is more than one, like that, for just one iteration at least. Like if I go and just run the add validations, watch this. I know it may fail at least in one. Let's just see what happens. Okay, I have a failure here, at least 10 of them. And I'm assuming that's because it said there was no exception thrown. Oh, I wonder if that's because of the date validations that we're doing. That's right. So tests shouldn't protect other tests though. So if I go into like a like the validation test in here for add in here and just run this one here with all the invalid things, this test will be all good and dandy. If I do control RT like this, it's totally fine. It's passing. And it's passing because it's assuming these properties are always going to be invalid, right? And tests shouldn't cover up for each other. So if I'm only doing the add, like if I run only the add validations, that wouldn't hold any water. That would be hugely problematic. If I just step outside of this page and just run every test in this particular page, I wonder if that would do anything. I mean, the datetime validations would block that. Yeah, this is the datetime validation. It's basically saying, I'm expecting this. You're throwing a service exception because I think a null reference or something like that. And then if I run this all the way, it's failing because of the one-time validations. But that's not something that you can rest assured will always be there. So I'm just trying to say that this theory is true. Like this theory that, us validating multiple things doesn't really guarantee that we have that test case covered. So that's a good point, Omar. Otherwise, this guy shouldn't be passing, right? What's the solution for it? I don't know. I don't know yet. We're gonna have to think about it. Maybe give me a weekend and I could come back and say, well, if we're gonna do it this way, we need to run a multiple permutations, like with each and every one failing, and then two are failing, and then three are failing. But what does that do to the, execution time for our tests? I don't know, right? So anyway, we're almost at time. Kailu, can you try to make that test pass and then sync up with us tomorrow?
I'll try.
Yeah, give it a shot because we're running out of time. Basically, in general, I think what Omar is looking for here is that the table information properties, which is the columns and the table name, are invalid, right? And if that's done, then we get to make like a decision whether we want to dig deeper into the list of columns and the list of names or not, right? I mean, he did validate that they're empty, so they need to have some values in them. Maybe we'll dig into it. I don't know. We still have time. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, my friends. Thank you all for joining in. Let's connect again tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.